Well, good afternoon, everybody. And actually, amazingly, we've got a pretty good audience, on a very punctual basis. So thank you very much for joining us. I've been trying to do this webinar for ages, but I couldn't get sufficiently strong presenters together to cover the broad range of specialist vessels that are used in spill response. So I'm delighted that our speakers are available and that we've been able to do this. So I hope you're going to enjoy this. Just to tell you what our knowledge base, we started our knowledge base webinars in 2021, and the idea was to share our members' world-leading knowledge and enable it to be found, accessed and shared, and as a result enable the knowledge of the industry and those who are associated with it to be increased. And over time, that we hope that our knowledge base, which is accessible through our website, will be a place where those involved or interested in spill response may come to inquire, increase their knowledge, understand what good looks like, so that they can work more safely, be compliant with the relevant legislation and deliver a better service. And with the support of our members, and it wouldn't happen without them, we've managed to do 10 marine knowledge-based webinars in 2021, 4 inland focused webinars, soil sampling and those sorts of things in autumn 2021. And we've done 3 inland and marine webinars in 2022. I've just noticed the typo, which you've just all seen. Anyway, that's worth a chuckle. We also put stuff into Spill Alert, and I've just been proofreading and making some corrections to the next edition of Spill Alert, which should come out tomorrow. And that has a broad range of topics in it, as well as examples of best practice. So later this week, do have a look at the next issue of Spill Alert. Our website to access the knowledge base is on the screen, and we have a very active LinkedIn feed. So make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, then you'll know when we've posted something new and exciting. Right, specialist vessels in spill response. Gosh, when I looked at the Wakashio, there were a lot of fishermen who knew a lot about their coastal waters, using their fishing boats to help support spill response activities. And it was great to see them being used where their fishing trade had been denied. Many of them were employed by Polyeco to work alongside them, using the knowledge that they had of the shoreline and of the coastal waters to help clean up that disastrous spill. And it was very, very effective. But actually, what you would have noticed is that amongst every cluster of 5 or 6 local fishing boats, there was a more specialist vessel, which was acting as a mothership for them all. And using booms, deploying booms, working with booms, working with pollution is difficult. There are many things that can go wrong, and the naive user of such a vessel can do a lot of harm. Not just to the booms themselves, but they can actually lose the product which they're trying to capture. And so it tends to be that that specialist vessels tend to be used in spill response, but often they're being used for many other things. It could be cleaning up trash in a port, but the further offshore you go, the more specialist the vessels need to be, because the consequences of getting it wrong and mishandling the booms that you're using becomes more significant. So what we're going to do is, through 3 excellent speakers, take you through the sort of specialist vessels which tend to be used in spill response. And we're going to hear from 3 speakers. Kevin Bond from Elastec, and he's going to talk about the vessels that Elastec do, but also the ones which they build under license from Waterwitch. From Brad Rutledge, who's relatively new to our community, but has a superb vessel which is built by Baleena. And then our last speaker will be Christian Ole Ingvorsen from DESME, and he's going to cover the larger vessels that are used in spill response. So we're going to hear from them all. We're going to take questions at the end. And if you can put your question into chat, I will host them. And then if necessary, I can open up all the, I can unmute everybody and we can have more of an open discussion. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Kevin Bond, and he's going to take us through the vessels that Elastek do, and also those that that Waterwitch provide. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen if I can find my little icon. I'll just try. Have I unshared, and are you able to share? Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, I can share.
Good. Okay, go for it.
So let me just ping that across.
Excellent. If you can just go full screen.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thanks for the introduction, and again, thanks for the opportunity to be able to present again on another UK Spill webinar. So it's been a few now that we've done, and yeah, this is another one in the series. So I'll start with the Waterwitch OmniCat, designed and made predominantly, has been in the UK. Elastek make them under license for sale mostly in the US and some other select territories around the world. But we're able, with our production facilities, to make them in the States, which gives us the ability to kind of at least control the quality that we put out and give our customers the vessel that they need. So kind of designed for small harbors, waterways, estuaries in mind. Very versatile vessel, very small vessel for use in harbors and ports and areas. Has very good maneuverability. You have the option of a single or twin engine outboard motors. We have also recently seen the uptake in electric outboard engines, and have supplied them a few places as well. And we know that Waterwitch have done this for their customers locally as well. Seems to be a good trend, and the electric outboard motor market is definitely increasing, with as well as the car market is increasing for electric. So yeah, definitely gives us the edge there on the greener technology. So the vessel itself has different pods where you can have a rubbish or trash collection pod. You can have a skimming pod or a pump out pod. So it gives you the ability to use the vessel for different tasks, for transporting bags of rubbish or trash around from vessel to quayside, and just making it as versatile as possible. When I was talking to Mark last week about these types of vessels, it was a case of, well, a boat is only really any good if you use it as much as you can, because if it's sat there in the water, then it's just either losing money or it's just not being used efficiently. So definitely something that if you can utilize as much as possible, it gives you that ability. So just a short kind of idea of some of the different pods available for the vessel. You got your litter basket, your trash basket, just a simple deck plate so you can transport items around the harbour, pumping, cutting of weeds in the rivers and in the harbours, washing down and lifting pods. So they're trying to make it as versatile as possible. And then, yeah, some of the things you can pick up around marinas, ports and harbours, obviously, of course, is extensive. Certainly if you have heavy rains or storms or whatever it else might be, wash things into the river. Good shallow draft and maneuverability for confined spaces. You can see there on the bottom of the picture some rubber tires just to help when you go up against quay walls and sides of potentially other vessels as well. All marine grade aluminium as it should be, easily transported through a specific trailer if you need to transport it and move it around, and good stable working platforms as well. Very compact again for tight spaces, so you might want to make sure you get under some of the lower bridges that might be in and around Europe, and certainly the UK. You get some low bridges, so you're making sure that you can access as much of the river and the harbour as possible. A good thing that we've used it for is weed collection and weed cutting. So we've adapted and have a bow weed cutter just to try and get rid of some of the invasive weed that we've seen over recent times. Good for dock maintenance with the A-frame bracket there. Pumping out systems just to be able to transfer either fuel, oil, waste from ships or from other vessels in and around the area. But mainly it was kind of designed initially for skimming trash or rubbish, debris from the waterways, to try and to make that an easier task. So as you can see there, just a few simple operations, just running around with a few guys, you can easily recover a lot of waste from the water, which is of course what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the waterways cleaner and greener, so as much as we can as possible to try and do that and help out. With the litter basket pod, it gives the ability to collect, transfer, and then dump into a skip afterwards. Just a few details, specifics on the actual vessel itself. 7 meters as a hull length, 2.5 meters beam. So it's a good working platform, good for 2 or 3 guys to be working on. If you're out there for most of the day, you need some good cover. So you have your sun cover or your visors as well. Different engine options depending on the requirements. And again, as I mentioned, we have the electric outboard motor as an option as well. Just a few testimonials from some of the customers we've got there in the US. Seems to be working quite well in Greater Chicago, so they seem to be quite happy with that there, and also in California. Just as in terms of impressions, I'll show a quick video here. It's not too long, so hopefully this works and comes through.
Go down.
So of course, what you're trying to do is just to make sure that you're making the task as easy and efficient as possible. If you've got any weed, trash, debris, floating in around rivers, ports, and harbors, to make it as efficient and easy as possible to get all that floating plastic and waste before it gets into the sea. That's what we're trying to do. Of course, we want to try and stop it at source, but when it gets into the water, you need to get it as quick as possible. So that's kind of the end of the OmniCat Water Witch vessel. I'll switch over now to another presentation, which is the general range of Elastec work boats. Let's increase that there. So generally fast response, general purpose work boats. Again, trying to make sure you have a boat or a vessel that's as useful as possible. So to have it for just one task for all spill response, you might not get a response situation for a whole year or even 2 years. So if you have a product or a workboat that can be used for other tasks, then it makes it worthwhile investing in. We have a few different versions, with our landing craft version there on the left hand side, and the it's a different version again on the right hand side. So workboats are workboats, again, marine grade aluminium construction, up to 34 feet is what we have as a basic design. Typically these are all made in our manufacturing warehouse in the USA. We do have requirements for overseas projects, Europe, Middle East, Far East, where different regulations come in place. Certainly, even if you look at for the UK, you need to have certain MCA coded requirements. So when it comes to those requirements, we typically get them made under license in Europe or in the particular country of destination, just to make sure that we get all the regulatory requirements covered. So that's one thing to know. It's okay to just buy a boat or a vessel for a use, but you need to make sure it's coded correctly. Outboard or jet propulsion, so different engine options. Again, we've looked at some of the more higher power battery electric drive versions, but I still don't think the technology is quite there for those yet in terms of cost versus technology. Different roles. If you can utilize it for as many different roles as possible, be it, we've seen quite a few kind of water taxi options used for these vessels, but then to try and utilize that or have the options available to swing it into an oil spill vessel as soon as you need to. Again, just different roles that you can potentially use it for. Dive platforms, we've seen some of these types of vessels used in and around Monaco, France, and Spain, where they're useful for dive boats with the shallow draft, good deck space.
Kevin, I'm only seeing your OmniCat presentation at the moment.
Okay. Sorry about
Am
that.
I the only one? I mean, if someone else, because I think you're clicking. I can hear you clicking, so you might be.
Try. Can you see that now?
No. Just try unsharing and then share again. That's
You
it.
see that now?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Okay. See if it comes back. I'll just zip back through some of the slides. Sorry about that. Yeah, just to give you some idea on what they look like. I'm sure most people
Wow.
look like. Yeah, different.
I have one.
Yeah, sure. How much have you got? They're different types, different versions. You have different cabin types, enclosed or just a bimini hood with different load options, different engine options, different length options. So I think the main thing is, if you're going to invest some money in a vessel or a small boat for tasks, just to make sure it's as useful as possible. Make sure it's something you can utilize and use every day, but then also have the adaptation and the ability to use it for oil spill response as and when that might happen. So just some of the standard features you can see there. All again marine grade aluminium, all made in-house in the USA by us, unless it goes overseas and has specific requirements for local codes, MCA codes or workboat codes for local countries. We can look at different areas for that. Again, proven designs. So we use a registered naval architect for all of the designs to make sure that goes through the system. And certainly when it comes to needing to get the coding done properly for MCA or whatever category it might need to be to, then we've got the backup for the full set of suite of drawings. Constructed at our home base in Carmel, Illinois. We've got a good team of guys that work on these, and we're actually at the minute, I think we're booked out until the end of the year on these aluminium, or should I say aluminum vessels. At the minute, we're doing some good work on these, so it seems to be a very, very popular choice at the minute, which is good. We're now just struggling, I think, like most people, to get hold of raw materials is a big issue. So yeah, all made in-house, which gives us the good control on quality for us. Again, different engine options, and we can look at adapting the vessels and the designs to suit specific requirements as well. You can see they're very good and handy for handling booms and skimmers. That vessel there has got a small davit for being able to lift, raise and lower a skimmer into the water. We've also got the boom push poles on the bow there to enable you to move the boom around if you need to. The davit is also good for dropping anchors at certain points if you need to drop to secure booms in certain places. So good welfare for the operators as well. So making sure you've got good cabin space, good shade covering for them as well. Today, seeing the davit in place, just lifting the equipment in and out of the boat. Yeah, making sure you've got enough space and the right tools to do that, instead of trying to hang over the side or the bow of the boat, just trying to move equipment in and out. Good wide bow doors, so when you come up to try and to load product or equipment onto the deck, just make sure you've got a nice wide bow to give you that space to get on and off. I personally probably wouldn't fancy doing that. I hope it's obviously wide enough to get on there. But yeah, of course, useful for carrying many different types of equipment, and getting from hard to reach areas is very useful in some of these small boats, to be able to transfer equipment and people and in and around spill response areas and sites. So again, trailers can be supplied, but specifically the ones we would supply would be for the US based roads, not applicable for all roads around the world. So again, dependent on the end country of destination, we'd make sure the trailer is suitable for the roads wherever it might be located. Some of the different standard options that we particularly offer, you got the smaller 18-foot version all the way up to a 32-foot version. The E26C is specifically designed to be able to fit inside a 40-foot container, just so it makes it easier for transporting around the world. And again, we give the recommended outboard options for the different size of vessels, just to give you a kind of a quick overview of suitable type of engines available. Again, I'll just scroll through these fairly quickly. It's just some of the different options that you can look at and consider. Consoles, screens, viewing platforms, observation posts, just to give you a better view of what's going on in the water. All the different types of options are useful for considering the type of job in hand. Davit to be able to lift equipment in and out, rub rails, working lights, of course, a big thing if you're working in the dusk or the dark. Non-slip decks. We all know when oil gets on product, the decks get slippery, so try and minimize that as much as possible. Lighting, anti-fouling, of course, is a big thing. Push knees and boom poles, as I mentioned. So push knees when you coming up to either vessels or different areas, harbors, walls to hold into place. Boom poles for being able to move boom in place in certain areas. All very useful and thought about accessories for these vessels. Again, yeah, just trying to consider all the potential options that you might need. Trim tabs for efficiency, getting to site quicker. Railings, stern guards. I'll just flick through these. And tow posts with a safety screen. Of course, safety is a #1 priority. So if you're towing a boom or something in the water and the rope snaps, that's going to come back at the vessel. So to have something in place to prevent anything happening to the operators. That's kind of us in a very short presentation in terms of ports and harbors, marinas, workboats. There might be a little video here. I'll just see if it comes up. There you go, the E26 being fitted inside a 40-foot container. Again, just some details on a typical workboat. So let me see if this will work. Scrolling from some pictures there. There's no video on that, I don't think.
No worries, but it looks very aspirational.
Yeah, no, lots of fun, certainly when you can get to go and commission one of these and play with it.
Really, yeah,
lots
good.
of fun. So,
Kevin,
yeah,
that's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
So
Mark.
we're going to take questions at the end. We'll take questions at the end. Put them in chat. I'm sure there will be questions. I've already got a few for you, Kevin. So if you can unshare, and then Brad's going to leap straight in.
Should be back with you.
Are you able to see my screen, Mark?
Yeah, that looks great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Kevin. Y'all have a lot going on over there. Y'all provided some tidal, what is it? I don't know the exact name, but it was a tidal boom tidal compensator, I believe.
Yes.
Said that right?
Correct.
And,
yeah.
I tried to pull up a picture. I'm hoping I can find one here in just a second, but it really made our vessel work really well. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to start real quick. Ballina, the name came from the baleen family of whales, which if you look them up, they can take on just a massive amount of water and food, their food source, and they maintain their food source and eject the water through their gills. And so our founding partner, Mr. Russell Covington, whenever he was coming up with our technology, he saw a clip on that and he thought, wow, that's exactly what our boat does. So we're able to take in massive amounts of oil and water, and we keep the oil on board and leave it in a stable state without interrupting it, so we don't emulsify it further. And then we basically strip the clean water out from underneath it and eject the clean water as we maneuver through patches. We don't have to shut down operation. So the goal for our boat, I'm gonna pull up a quick video, bear with me 1 second. Just to kind of get us started. This is the versatility of our boat. This is our prototype that's 10 feet wide, 32 feet long. And our production model is actually gonna be 8.5 feet wide, to Kevin's point, so that it can go into a C-130 or container for shipping. So it's a little bit different. I'll get into that detail here in just a few minutes, but I want to share this with you. This has two 225 horsepower marine jet drive Are y'all still with me?
Yeah, that's good.
You're able to see that? Okay. I just want to start off with the versatility of kind of what we do. So we travel light ship, what you just saw. We don't have any product on board. And so we can travel with this model about 16 knots. It's designed for 21 knots, and we're working on some different impellers for it. But we can travel to the location, and then we actually ballast into the water. And so the middle of the boat is kind of like a catamaran hull with a sealed bottom, and we flood that inner chamber. And then once we flood that inner chamber, we kick on our process pumps, and we're taking in 4,000 gallons a minute of oil and water. And so, or whatever's floating for that matter, toxic algae and other things that we can get into in just a second. But So we're just ingesting an enormous amount of fluid. And in doing so, in the front, we have what we call the IFR, and it's similar to a weir, but it's actually adjustable with air or water. Depending on the viscosity of the fluid, you can basically keep out the majority of water and take in more product. And so after we can store about, I think on this vessel, it's about 1,800 gallons of oil on board and bring it in, or we can at the same time discharge with the 800 gallon per minute Vogelsang discharge pump. And so we can discharge to adjacent vessels. The maneuverability of this one allows us to float actually backwards with a strong current, so a 3 or 4 or 5 knot current. We're an advancing skimmer, so we can go about 2 knots, almost 3, without pushing a headway. Our pumps are strong enough to still induce a flow. And so that's one of the things. We'll be back at the OMSET test tank in New Jersey in May 23rd. And if you guys are interested in following us, send me a link and I can give you some updates on some of that. But the testing we're going back for this year, last year we tested and we took in 98% oil to water ratio whenever we did our testing. And we were really wanting 100%. And the reason is that they made us pump all of our product off until we got to water. And in a real world setting, we'll never pump all the way to water. We'll always hold a little bit of a prime or a charge until we get to the very end of a spill, and then we'll flush our entire chamber and deballast and come back in. But we don't use any filtration. We don't use any consumables. We leave the oil in its stable state. We don't decant. We can take in just really thin viscosity fluids, adjusting that IFR. So dielectric fluids or even your diesel or gasoline. I wouldn't want to be on board gasoline, although we have had some interest in intrinsically safe model, and we are looking at partnering up with a couple of larger refinery firms that are interested in helping us take that piece to the next level. Our production model is going to be 8.5 feet wide, 30 feet long. We're looking at doing 100 horsepower, 100 horsepower power plant. So we'll do redundancy, Mark. We're going to have 2 50 horsepower plants instead of 100 in case something goes wrong. You're in the middle of, you don't want to have to shut everything down. You can still, get through with the spill at a very efficient rate.
Brad, I don't
You got
think
to go
your
down to
slides
2,000
aren't.
gallons a minute.
Brad, sorry to interrupt, but your slides aren't changing over. That's more
Okay.
like it. Yeah, that's it.
All right, here we go. So apologize for that. Thank you, Mark. Yep. So our next model is going to be, easier to travel down the road. This one would get it all the way to Savannah, Georgia from Texas. Wasn't that big of a deal, but you do have to file for some permits. And so we want to make that easier on the end user. The other thing we're talking about doing is putting 2 Ox outboard diesels on board the next one. So we don't have to have a 500 horsepower Duramax driving the jet drives. If somebody wants that ability, I will tell you that it's that first video clip I showed you was in Corpus Christi, and it was very windy during that exercise. And I was very thankful to Russell for putting that unit together, because we held firm when all the other boats were scattering in the wind. We were able to help them actually move their boom around with them, kind of for them. So that was nice. But our product is scalable. So we can go all the way. I think the first version that was drawn up was 1 million gallons a minute for an offshore version, which obviously we didn't think we needed to build as the prototype. So we scaled that, quite a bit down to something a little more affordable. But we do need 3 feet of ballast to be able to start the collection process. And so everybody said, what are you going to do about shallower waters? So one of the things we came up with was a manifold that plugs into the front of the boat. And so we've got 6 3-inch suction hoses that go off to what we call the shallow water collection pods. And one of the things I didn't mention was that we pull a vacuum on our chamber. So there's no oxygen in that system. So our shallow water collection pod, we had to design a skimmer head that would bring the product to our boat without emulsifying it further. And so that's really what we've worked on is putting the same technology into that skimmer head, bringing it into the front of the boat. Our boat could sit in deeper water. You could put your wetland collection pods out. And with the 4,000 gallons a minute of clean water, we can actually, if we needed to float the product, we can actually divert that clean water back into the wetlands and flood it. if people want to use surface agents or things of that nature. So we also are designed with a remote control system. I'm sure Kevin and them are familiar with, and some of the other users may be familiar with a CAN bus backbone. And so we're tied into CAN bus backbones. Our vision of this is that, you know, if there's inclement weather, you could jump onto a adjacent vessel and get out of the weather if you needed to, and still maintain function and never stop a spill. And so that was kind of our goal. And then because we can do that, Sea Machines approached us about making a fully autonomous model. This is kind of the wetlands picture I was just talking about. Let me pull this video. I'm gonna show you one quick little video. Let's see, I think there we go. Ooh, that was the end. I'll show you from here. So real quick, can you still hear me, Mark?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so this is going to be a split screen. On the left is the prototype that we built in a tank before we built the actual scaled prototype model, working model that you see right here. And so you'll see that on the left, and then you'll see the boat on the right in the OMSAT test tank. And that's
We're not seeing that slide. We're not seeing the split slide.
You'll see it when I play
great.
the video.
Okay, great.
See, the boat's taking in 900 gallons of oil, and at about 5 minutes, it's pulling in ribbons. And so then the next thing you'll see is the shallow water collection pod that's in our test tank. And then when we go back to OMSAT, we'll do a video showing the results. So should be back with y'all. Were you able to see that, Mark?
Yeah, that's great. Because we flicked some of them, could you go back to some of the earlier slides, which just show the principle of how it works? Because there are some better slides back there. That's it.
I don't think they're.
That's it.
Let's see which one.
From there. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was that 900 gallons of oil that we pulled in, and in about 5 minutes, we pulled it into ribbons. And so it's just an enormous amount of product that's able to recover. We've since changed these doors up. We had MSRC in the US that we've been working with to try to help us get to market on a spill so that we can prove it on a spill. And they said, we'll rip those doors clean off. And so we started scratching our heads, and we called the guys at Lastech and came up with a tidal compensator that's on the front of that. I want to try to find a picture, but it's turned out really, really nice. And so this year, when we go back to OMSAT, we're going to test. We're going to do this same test, stationary skimmer test. Our IFR broke the very first day, if you can imagine that. And so we weren't able to test using the IFR, and we still set what we think are some really big standards. But this year, we're going back. We're going to have the IFR. The second day, we're going to do our shallow water collection pods. And the third day, we're actually working with the folks over at Bessie to help set a standard for advancing skimmer tests. And so we're going to play around in the tank, and that should be a lot of fun. We've got a big crowd coming out this year. Get to the end. So our vision is more of like a process where we'd have a work vessel and 2 oil transport barges for most spills, that you could never shut down a spill, and you could just continue to bring the recovered product in and really get done in a shorter amount of time and recover just as much product as we can recover. I think the average spill is about 10% recovered product. And so we think if we can get there a little faster and pull it in faster, we might be able to recover a little bit more product before it emulsifies or sinks or other things. some different articles. So much to Kevin's point, we want to make a vessel that's versatile. And so we want to be able to do some other things. We put an inline macerator in our production model that will allow us to do toxic algae. And so we feel very confident we can achieve that. And then with some modifications, start to look at the debris, plastics, and some of the other models. Right now, we started in the US 2 years ago with our marketing. And so we're, currently getting into the international market. Thank you, Mark, for your help. And we look forward to participating in the UK Ireland Spill Association.
Not yet. No, I'm trying to do something else.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, Brad. Have you finished? You're finished now, aren't you?
Yep.
That was great. Put questions in at the end. I've got a couple of questions, but if you could unshare now, and then we can introduce Christian. Okay, Christian, good to go.
All right, let me see if it works.
Hey, looks good.
So you can see my screen now?
Yeah, that looks very good, Christian. Thank you.
Perfect. As Mark said at the introduction, I'm going to talk about boats a little bigger, from 10 meter up to 24 steel boats. And as we say, we have these 10 to 24 meter, and most of them are the catamaran construction. And we have the same challenge that luckily you don't have an oil spill every day, so you need to make boats which can be used for other purposes as well. This is just to show a glimpse of our boats. This is the biggest 24 meter. Here we have some 19, and this is the 10 meter. We actually started in the 70s we had some inquiries. Some of the first inquiries actually came from UK, from the bigger oil terminals, BP Hamble and all of the terminals. And we had a fairly big office in UK at that time. And so all the boats, all the steel boats have been built in UK so far. And we have the 3 models here. We have the Polcraft, the smallest one, which is a monohull construction, a versatile workboat in, should we say, confined waters. If I jump to the Polcat, which is the first construction, it is in 3 versions today, 15.5, 19, and 24 meters. It's a fairly heavy construction, and the biggest one has a weight of a little less than 100 ton. So we had some inquiries for a little lighter construction, which we then call Polkitten, to be in this way of talking, which is only available in 13 meter. And when this is said, I mean, if the customer has a special requirement, we can, of course, tailor-made it. Here are some photos of the small Polcraft monohull construction. This is from Tema in Ghana, and it has a fairly big deck space, even though it's only 10 meters. So you can carry booms and skimmers. We have this device here to recover garbage also. Here we have the Polkitten, the lightweight Polcat, and as you can see, the wheelhouse can be in the aft or in the front. again giving you a fairly big deck space. And if it's supposed to deploy booms, then the wheelhouse should of course be in the front. The the Polcat, the smallest version, here you can see we have this lifted wheelhouse, which is giving a full working deck. We can of course also do the lower version. Again, it gives a lot of space, and the catamaran construction is a very stable construction. What we can do, or what we will do on the Polcat, especially or in the first place, was that we have some oil mops in between the two hulls, which can be lowered into the water, so you sail into the oil spill, and then you have a zero velocity area with regard to the oil mop in the oil, so you have a very good adhesion of the oil to the mop ropes. And they're sitting some ringers which are squeezing off the oil. This photo we very much like. It was 4 boats to the Greek authorities. So they bought 4 19-meter Polcats, again with these mop ropes in between the hulls. And here you can see the deck. You can have booms, etc. So they are used in a number of different ports in Greece. This photo is from where the boat is built, Manor Marine, in the south part of UK. This is actually a floating prison. I don't know if it's in operation anymore. Again, some more photos of our 19-meter Polcat. Normally the speed is up to around 12 knots, and it can take some 40 to 60 cubic meter of recovered oil. And of course with a crane, so you can lift external skimmers and assist with boom deploy or recovery if it should be necessary. Now, the biggest one we have built is a 24-meter Polcat, and it is for Kenya in Africa. It's a little special because they had some requirements to the exhaust, which should be without any potential flames. Unfortunately, it takes quite a lot of deck space. The bollard pull of this boat here is just below 10 ton, and it has the 1500 millimeter row boom and an external skimmer. Plus, this model here, as the first, has a brush skimmer in the front, which you can lower in between the hulls. It's an 8 brushes. And this just to show an old photo from Milford Haven, where you see the boat in operation using sweeping arms. We have been focusing on oil spill combat, but also they can be used as a normal general harbor workboat, and also for internal transport of people and smaller cargo. When this is set, we see more and more that potential customers are focusing on a very versatile boat. We also see, which is kind of natural, that when we are talking about boats at this size, they have to be built on a proper shipyard. And a lot of the potential buyers are insisting on having the contract with the shipyard and not with a company in between, which is kind of fair enough. So it requires that we have a good cooperation with the shipyard. The CasiCat is just on the design phase. It hasn't been sold so far. What we try to utilize here is that we are using containers instead of other type of, should we say, where you can store your equipment. It can go 14 knots, and fully loaded, it's 13 knots. As you can see, you have 4 container spaces. The idea was that, or is that, these 2 containers, each of them can carry 25 cubic meter, can be used as where you have your recovered oil. When you have an oil spill, and this vessel here is built as under the MCA category 2, so it can go up to 60 nautical miles from safe haven. What you have to realize is that one of the big obstacles, one of the big time consumers having an oil spill is to unload the oil. Once the boat is filled with oil, you have to go to a port and unload the oil. Now, do you have trucks enough to pump on the oil and to remove the oil? Or do you have to use whatever tank is available? What is the distance between the boat and the tank? So it can easily take, I would say, 3, 4, 5 hours before you are ready to go back to the scene again. Now, the concept is that in literally all ports, you will have a crane which can actually lift a 20-foot container. You will also be able to find a truck which can transport a 20-foot container. It doesn't have to be a designated truck. So instead of using 5 hours, you can actually change the containers. Of course, it should mean that you should have empty containers on shore, and then you can make the change in 20 minutes or so instead of 5 hours. As you can see here, we can also have a crane which is on a 10-foot flat, or you can have 2 additional containers. The carrying capacity of the boat is a 95 ton, and the length is, as per MCA category 2, is just below 24 meters, and the width is approximately 9.5 meters. So you have a huge space. And this is just to illustrate how it looks. One little detail is that we have made this hole in the construction, so you can use it as a diver boat also. Divers are really keen on having a protected site where they can go into the water, and you are protected by the 2 holes when you're using this. And here you can see the details of the boat. 2 times 610 kilowatt. I said 95, it's actually a little more than 100 ton. We can, as I said, what we can say with this CasiCat and having the container solution is that you can use it for more than 12 operation modes. And it gives a very great flexibility, and changing containers so you can use it for this and for that, you can do in half an hour or so. Very, very quickly, just to give you a brief overview of our list of customers. So you can see the 2 first was one for Mexico and Greece, and then Solomon Row, BP Hamble, Milford Haven, and the Orkney Island, Lesso Frawley. I can say that a couple of years ago, one of the old boats, more than 25 years old, was just taken out of operation. Oh, just a little thing. We actually supplied boats to South Korea in 1990.
Wow.
Yeah, again, One little detail, what we have in Europe is we can actually finance the purchase of a Casicat boat and give you a 5-year payback period. And this is, you can see more details about it at our DESME homepage. I have some video here, but you can actually just, we are a little behind schedule, so I won't show the video, but you can find a Casicat on YouTube. You can find the video, or you can go to DESME homepage where there is a selection of videos also where you can find it. So back to you.
Thanks, Christian.
And I will try to, is it new share?
Yeah, I'll share mine, back to sharing mine. So if you unshare, I'll share mine.
Okay. How do I get out of this?
Hang on.
Oh yes, just no.
You got it. You try it. Hey, well,
yes.
you mastered it. You're an expert now, Christian.
Yeah, almost an expert.
We'll definitely have you back. Right, hang on. I've got to find mine now. I think this is the one. Okay, hopefully that's that. Let me get my slideshow. I thought that was really interesting. Thank you very much indeed to all our 3 presenters. Now, the issue with all this is, are there any questions? Oh, sorry, let me get to where I should be. Okay, let me get to where we should be. Are there any, has anybody got any questions for these guys here, or are you gonna have to listen to my silly questions? So that, okay, firstly, for Brad, have you got an indicative price for your vessel?
Hey, so we're about 2 months away from having that, but you know, our model is going to be probably long-term leasing to work with people.
Okay.
We want to make it affordable. So
yeah. Okay, and will you be working then with a leasing company so that people can buy it through that? Because that's obviously an attractive way of acquiring it.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're looking at
That's
actually being the leasing company, Mark, because we want to stay engaged as we continue to develop this.
Good. And in terms of designing it to tailor it to particular operations in different areas, are you open to some of that?
Yes.
I'm not saying we don't want to be building, you don't want to be building custom boats, because custom boats are very expensive. But in terms of particular port operations, that sort of thing, are you able to accommodate changes?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Within reason.
Yeah. Okay. And a question for you, Christian. I get from what you were talking that you're quite happy to build under license. Is that right?
Yeah, that is definitely one question or one issue or one possibility.
Yeah.
Because transporting a boat at this size is definitely not cheap.
Yeah.
I was terrified when I learned how much it costed from UK to Kenya. So it is definitely a possibility to choose a local shipyard, and I would recommend that we are, should we say, wedding or whatever you call it, the shipyard before it's finally decided to use it. So that's,
well, there's a huge investment going into these vessels, and you really want to be sure that the person who is building it is truly competent to deal with something as complex as this.
And we are not experts in this, but we are hiring naval architects to go through the shipyard together with us. I shouldn't reveal too much information, but what I can tell you is that having the boat going from UK to Kenya was in transport cost just more than $250,000 US. So it's quite a substantial amount you are spending on literally nothing.
Yeah. That's a lot of money to spend. Okay,
Yes.
fine. So yeah, so having it built locally to under your supervision or in partnership with you is the way to do it.
Absolutely.
Good. That was that. In terms of what do you see the future, Christian, because oil is changing and you're seeing now, very low sulfur fuel oil. A lot of the technology in our industry is built around perhaps heavier oils. How do you see that influencing how these vessels will work in the future?
No, you see that it's a little dangerous question, Mark, because then you start.
But you're experienced guy. And
yeah, but you see, when we're talking about low sulfur oil,
yeah,
the problem is that it is literally 500 different types of oil. Each country, each oil company, it's a blend. All of them are blended oil. So, and what happens is that when they are in the water, spilled in the water, some of them has a pure point of up to more than 25 degrees.
Yeah.
It means that even in fairly hot water, it becomes solid. And European Union taking a lot of our money. This was a personal remark. They are in the process of testing 3 or 4 different types of low sulfur oil, where Norway is mostly in charge. For whatever reason, they are keeping all information very tight. We know that they have tested the oil with 3 different types of skimmers.
Yeah.
We are one of the skimmers, and based on this, the knowledge we hopefully gain, we have to rethink everything, because it seems that a lot of the oils will not be able to be recovered with brush skimmers, for instance. Most likely, they will not be able to be recovered with weir skimmers. You need belt skimmers, but how the hell do you get this extremely heavy oil on board the boat?
Yeah.
That is a real challenge, and I'm not in a position to say this is exactly how we do it, because it would be only hot air, because we really don't know so far. And this is also why European Union are spending €1 million for testing just 4 types of low sulfur oil.
Yeah, with my Interspill hat on, and also my trade association hat on. The Interspill hat, if you like, gives me access to what some of the work which is going on in Norway with SINTEF and with
Cedra is also,
that's it, and with Cedra and with there's all sorts of bodies. CFAS in the UK is working on things, all working collaboratively, well, sort of individually, but slightly collaboratively to develop solutions. There is a real need to come up with solutions, and I think we will start to see more clarity by the end of this year.
We have been told that the outcome of this European Union is called IMAROS. This project here should be published in June or July, and then we hope to.
Yeah, we're certainly at Interspill this year. There is a whole section, whole stream on emerging fuels, and we will get a lot more about it at that event. So I think there's a lot of bright brains working on it, which is what we need. And I think we will certainly, through this forum, be wanting to cascade the information that we have, plus also some of the research that we have, such that the trade associations, which can tend to move faster than governments and regulators, we can start working with the spill community to devise appropriate recovery solutions when we know which direction we're going in. At the moment, we don't know which direction we're going in, and that is hopefully clarity will come later this year.
But there is another issue we also had to at least look a little bit into, and that is this autonomous operation of boats, which of course has a huge interest
Big
for,
issue.
yeah, because if you can save manpower, you could even say that you don't have to, you can go into more dangerous areas if you don't have any people on board. So this is something we have to follow also.
Yeah, I think that's taking us a long way from the purpose of this webinar.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
But I think I know it is. These are questions of. In fact, one of the topics that we are going to talk about at Interspill is the increase in increasing use of automation on vessels, which are causing its own problems.
Yeah.
There's more work to be done on that, but it's outside of this. Now, has anybody else got any other questions? Because time is running on, and I think we need to. But if anybody has any questions, you can either ask them now. I'll enable everyone to ask questions if I can find the control panel. If anybody has any questions for Christian or for Brad, please do feel free to ask them now. Okay, well, without further ado, I'd like to thank Christian, and I'd like to take Brad, and I'd like to take Kevin, even though he's not here, for really good, knowledgeable presentations. There's some interesting technology out there, and it's great that vessels are really becoming multi-role vessels, so that when you can recover your investment by keeping those vessels busy all the time. They are specialists in that they do lots of different things, but they actually are all designed around the core function of recovering product which has fallen into the water. Now, our next webinars are a sort of partnership between me wearing my Interspill hat and my UK and Ireland Spill Association hat. We've got a whole series of Clean Seas webinars coming up. The first is coastal darkening. Now, coastal darkening is, you may have noticed around your coastlines that they aren't quite as green underneath the surface as they used to be. And this is basically pollution running off the shore, which is affecting the coastal climate, linked also to increasing water temperatures, which means that the green that you see in the sea is becoming darker. We then have a really interesting one with a whole range of speakers on the 26th of May, marine debris and plastic pollution. And there's
Mark, I did want you to plug in the plastic nurdles for our technology as well. Whenever.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I felt
it will be. I mean, the nurdles is a big issue, and part of that will be covered on that webinar on the 26th of May. And then we've got emerging pollutants on the 8th of June, which is really about pollutants which might also already be in the sea, which as they break down are now starting to discharge PCBs. We're getting wrecks from the Second World War or other wrecks which are corroding and beginning to release some of their contents into the oceans. How do we deal with this? Because it's increasing, it's changing the chemistry of the ocean, and that is affecting the ability of life within it to continue to exist as well as it has in the past. So we're going to discuss these three topics in chunks over the next well, really just about 6 weeks. Scary. And these will be leading in with other where there'll be other webinars coming out on shipping and salvage, and also on ports and harbors, about issues which we face. And these will be basically Interspill Inform webinars, which lead us into Interspill, which is on the 21st to the 23rd of June in Amsterdam. And you can get details of all of these through interspill.org. You'll probably also get mailed as well by our organization. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you very much to Christian, Kevin, and Brad for presenting so well and with lots of information. We will be mailing you the link to the recording of this webinar so that you can view it at your leisure. And of course, it will end up being in our YouTube channel, which can be accessed through our website. Thanks very much. Have a good day wherever you are in the world, and stay safe out there. Good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.